Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Future Trends Forum. My name is Bryan Alexander. I'm your convener, MC, and chief cat herder for the next hour, and I'm very glad to see all of you here today in July of 2017. We have an extraordinary guest today, and I'm greatly looking forward to them. Now, let me just begin by saying a few words introducing the forum, where it comes from, where it's going, who supports it, and how it works before we get going. So let's see. Ella, if you could advance the slide one, please. Thank you. You should know the Future Trends Forum is a discussion. It's an ongoing conversation through video technology. And through it, we try and explore the trends that, among other things, we explore through the Future Trends in Technology and Education report. And if you haven't seen that, go to ftte.us or follow the hashtag FTTE. That's a monthly trends analysis that takes a look at current developments in education and technology and test them against a database of about 70 to 80 previous trends so we can try and extrapolate from them towards the future of where education might be going. Please, if you hadn't had a chance, go and subscribe, check out some sample issues. We'd be glad to see you. Now, next slide, please. Now, you should also know that when we think about the future of higher education and technology, that it's, I think, incumbent upon us to think of that in a global sense, that we should think internationally. And this forum has reflected that spirit. You can see from this map that we've had participants from just about every continent in the world, from Asia, Europe, Africa, North America, South America, Australia. And you can see from the little yellow tag that I've actually presented here from several different places, including Iceland, Finland, and Malta, not to mention the United States. And hopefully today's session will reflect that as well, as our guest is from down under, and we already have participants from Europe, from Brazil, and from Canada. Now, next slide, please. Now, we can only do this work with the help of some sponsors who are very kind. So the first I want to recognize is NYSERNet from New York State. It's a nonprofit that works to help connect colleges, universities, libraries, and museums to the internet. They do great work, and we're very grateful to them for their support. We're also very grateful to Shindig, because Shindig provides us with two terrific resources. One of them is, as you can see here, this technology. And let me just explain what you're looking at if you haven't been here before, if you just need a refresher. This up here where I am, and where these slides are, is the stage. This is where presenters are. This is where Martin is going to be in just a minute. And this is where any of you can join us. Anybody who's up here can be heard and seen by everybody in this Shindig right now. Now below us is the audience, or what I think of as the participant swarm. And as you look around, you can see video feeds of people like Bill Bateman, with his swanky shirt and his headset looking at us right now. You can see individual silhouettes. And these are all individuals that are going to be participating in this conversation. And as you watch, you'll see them moving back and forth a little bit in a kind of Brownian motion. Now, if you are a participant and you want to talk to somebody in private during this hour, very, very easy to do. And David Woodrock asked a question about this in the chat. All you do is double-click on their icon. So if you want to chat with, say, Daniel Nelson, double-click on him. And if he wants to talk to you, your two icons will click together like Lego pieces, and you'll have your own audio-video bubble, so you can have your own private conversation. If Daniel doesn't want to talk to you because he has an awesome beard, or maybe he's doing his own thing, that's fine. He simply clicks on a privacy icon, and he has privacy. Now, there are 4 different ways for you to interact with us, because this is a discussion, this is a conversation, this is not a presentation. Now, I'll just quickly touch on these, and please use as many of these as you feel comfortable with. So first, if you look to the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, there's a teal-colored strip that has 3 icons on it. Each of those is a way to interact. The first one is a question mark in the bubble. Click that, and that'll pop up a text box so you can type in a question. When the time is right, we'll flash that question over the screen, and I'll read it out loud. And that's a really good way to share your thoughts and to bring up questions. Now, if your mic is working and your camera is working, and you feel like you want to talk to us, click the raised hand icon. That'll tell us you want to come up on stage. When the time is right, we'll pull you up on stage and you can join us and talk with us. If that sounds complicated, it's actually really easy to do. People do this all the time. If that's not enough, the people that came into the room with you, roughly about 18 folks that came in with you, you and they get a chat box. So if you click the little chat box, you'll get an icon and you get the ability to have an informal text-based conversation with everyone there. So right now in the room where I am, I'm looking at David, Martin, Veronica, Sandy, Jean, Vicky, myself, Giselle, Rick, a whole bunch of people. So you can have a conversation there. If that's not enough, you can go out of this window and go to Twitter and use the hashtag FTTE. And that way we'll be tracking that and we'll have a chance to add conversation and add comments. We often find that people who aren't in this session for whatever reason, maybe they're in a meeting or they're driving or their broadband isn't working, that's fine. They still contribute questions and comments. I gather those up, bring them in during the session, and then we see them afterwards. They're still fine. So 4 methods for contributing and connecting with us. Please use whichever ones you feel comfortable with. I mentioned Shindig is providing this technology. They also provide one other terrific resource, which is wonderful people. So right now we have Ella and May, not to mention Tara, who will help us make sure all the technology works. And we have one other source of support, which is Patreon. So if you go to patreon.com/Bryan Alexander, you'll see dozens of people who have signed on to support this creative work in independent education futures. So please, if you can, sign up to contribute whatever you can. That way you help keep the lights running, keep Shindig humming, keep our conversations running along. Now, well, that's a whole bunch of background, and it's important to have. And we have to give you one more piece of background before we bring our guest up on stage. And that is to introduce you to Martin. So, if you don't know Martin, you absolutely should. Martin Dougiamas is the creator and chief cat herder for Moodle. Moodle is one of the world's 2 leading learning management systems. When I say the world's, I mean literally. As we saw from our previous guest, Phil Hill, that the 2 leading LMSs or VLEs on the planet right now are Moodle and Blackboard. Martin is the man who invented Moodle, and he is currently running and shepherding a great deal of open source development for it, which we'll learn about in a second. He's one of the most important people on the planet for education and technology. And we're honored and delighted to have him here, especially because it's 2 o'clock in the morning where he is right now. So we're very, very glad to see him. So Ella, how about if you push the slides off the stage and bring Martin on up?
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Martin. Good morning, I should say.
Good morning. I am feeling surprisingly awake. It must be the effect of the Shindig and the Bryan coming together and all these people. So hello, everybody. I can see a bunch of familiar faces in there, actually, from around the world. So hi to you guys and hi to everybody else. And
fantastic.
Anybody watching on a recording later on.
Well, all of this will be recorded and put up on YouTube, so you can revisit it at your leisure. I have to say, Martin, a couple of quick things. First of all, I'm so glad you're here given the time zone difference, which is bonkers. And second, my family wanted to say hello because they use Moodle in their classes, both the classes they take and the classes they teach. So they wanted to pass on personal greetings.
Hello to the family. I apologize for any problems they're experiencing. I'm sure we'll get them.
I'll pass that on. Let me just ask right now, just to begin with, you're an extraordinary figure right now in education technology. People know you and recognize you and either respect or fear your work. The question I want to ask for everyone right now is in 2017, what is your job with Moodle now? Are you like Linus with Linux for a long time? Are you the guiding spirit of Moodle? Or what exactly are you working on?
Well, so I guess my job, apart from I started the original Moodle, it's now has a lot of people involved, and my role is really to bring sustainability to the mix. It's an open source project, and all open projects don't function unless they have some sort of sustainability. And rather than relying on grant funding and things like that, we have a business model around it that supports the whole thing and keeps it running. So my job is I'm the CEO of the Moodle company, which is at the center of everything. And we manage the whole ecosystem, if you like, to make sure that Moodle moves forward and develops and gets better and becomes what people want it to be.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's quite a lot of work. That makes you more than the guiding spirit. That makes you the chairman of the board. Do you?
Literally.
Exactly. Well, I have a couple of questions for you, Martin, to get things going. But let me just remind everybody that This is the time for you to ask your questions and to raise topics. So again, I give you those 4 channels for responding. We've already had some Twitter comments right now. So please, don't let me hog the stage. I'm sure you guys have plenty to ask. If I could, in the middle of 2017, what's the status of Moodle sustainability? How do you guys keep everything going?
We're doing well. Moodle has never stopped growing in its whole lifetime, which is a while now. I've been working on Moodle for about 17 years, although it's only been in the public for about 15. Mm-hmm. And we've never stopped growing. But not half my life, no, maybe a third. But we've had we are a very interesting time actually in 2017. There's a bit of a war going on. There's a lot of a war going on around the planet right now, and we find ourselves at the vanguard of people who believe in openness, who believe in social good, social justice. And on the other side of the fence, as you have in your country, a bit of a corporate takeover of the government going on right now. There is an increasing, I guess, effect of very large, wealthy organizations focused on profit, focused on increasing the inequality gap, focused on commercializing public services. And so we find ourselves kind of in a war right now, and I've really started to refocus our activities stronger than ever, actually, to do a better job, to do a more effective job of spreading openness in education in particular, which is a place that is so important. Education affects every other thing that human beings do on this planet, and so it's important work, and I actually feel more energized and committed to Moodle than at any time previous, I would say, even starting it.
Wow. And you started that in grad school.
Yeah, I went. I was working at a university when I started it, and I had a computer science background, and I was working with a lot of academics around the university and staff of all kinds, trying to help them use the internet. This is back in '99. And before. And those days, I had known the internet already at that point for, a decade and a half. But most people were just coming to know it through the web. The web was the new thing. And the problem with the web at that point was that it was a one-way medium. You just published things. And I and you, I'm sure, and a lot of people knew that it could be this interactive space. And so that's why I was starting to build prototypes of Moodle way back then to try and bring that interactivity back onto the web. It's been a while.
And you've succeeded in enormous ways.
Well, we all have. I mean, the internet has grown and it is very interactive. Everyone's used to it being interactive now. And we have a very app-focused kind of environment now where these very small platforms do one thing or a couple of things, unless it's something like Facebook and it tries to be an octopus. But we're in this kind of place now where things are getting very complex again now on the internet, and people don't really know how it works or where the data is or what's the agendas, where their software comes from. They don't know the faces behind who makes different things that we use. And that's, do you think
the mobile ecosystem is part of that, where mobile devices are harder to get under the hood for?
Yeah, certainly it is. Yeah, I mean, I'm as guilty as anyone of not looking to see who's behind a particular app. I mean, I really try to, but I'm very, very conscious of it, and I know most people, they don't care. And sure. It is one factor for sure. Moodle is 2 million lines of source code that you generally have to download onto a server and install, and you make it run for a particular institution. That's relatively old-fashioned now, where when you hear about a product, you basically expect to go and click and get it instantly,
Yeah.
and pay a subscription or not. But what we're doing actually is bringing the old model of Moodle into this new world. Our own apps are becoming pretty amazing. We are in fact, at this point, and only quite recently, students never need to go to the Moodle website. They can actually operate 100% inside an app on a tablet or a phone or a desktop.
Although that calls back to the local instance, right?
That's right, and it's completely under the control of the institution, and everybody knows where everything is.
That's fantastic. Let me take you a step back. When you were talking about Moodle as an instance of open in education, do you see Moodle as allied to open education resources as well, and also to, say, open access and scholarly publication?
Yes, very much, at least in philosophy. And there are many open initiative, open data, open government, and all kinds of things. Philosophically, we're very aligned. Practically and technically, we are becoming more aligned as we are starting to make an effort to connect these things together. And I'm speaking tomorrow at an open education thing in the UK. I've been in Europe the last few weeks. I've been talking with open education, various people, software, resources, and services. And what I'm really focused on now, actually, is joining with these other organisations so that we can be working together more. Currently, institutions join them together. The actual projects don't always work together as much as they should, and I would like to see more of that. And we have a very exciting project that we're starting, which is the new community, the new Moodle community site. It's more than a site. It's a service that connects all the Moodles together, and it connects them with open education resources, and also allows a lot of new types of community activities, which I think will bring a new age to open education resources. So, for example, we've got a model. Yeah, we've got a model for creating open education resources sustainably, so that people are being paid to do it, but then the results become.
You have is that up on the web live right now, the Moodle community site?
No, this is the new thing that we're working on. So the current one is a Moodle site. In fact, for the last 15 or so years, our main community site has been a Moodle site, and it's been upgraded continuously for all that time. And that supports millions of accounts, probably around 10,000 active users a month. And that's doing fine, but it's restricted because we're using Moodle, which is meant for education, and that recursive thing of using the educational platform to be the community was really intended. But we have to go beyond that now. We have to build much more focused tools. So we want to get people together who are teaching the same course in the same language together. And then we want to enable them to create content together and fund each other to do that. So something like a sort of Kickstarter, like a mini Kickstarter project, where somebody says, look, I'm going to create the best Creative Commons Moodle course to teach, I don't know, French to people who speak Portuguese natively.
Right.
And they come up with a plan, they come up with a rough cost, how many weekends it's going to cost them to do this work. And they raise through a kind of a crowdfunding mechanism that money, and then they when they deliver, it becomes part of the system. And then that's only a couple of clicks away from any future teacher who wants to teach Portuguese people French. And that's the kind of thing we're doing in the new community side.
This could be huge, Martin. This could be, just, again, for everybody who has been participating in this so far, interinstitutional collaboration has been a theme that we've touched on in many, many ways, especially for publicly funded higher education. And OER we've celebrated that openly here in the forum, and that's something that we've been trying to explore how it could be sustained. what you're describing sounds like a kind of global open source development project for it. That's tremendous.
Well, I think it will leverage the sheer number of people who are using Moodle, and it also gives them a reason to join in. And it also will be joining with all the other open education resource projects that we can. Like I'd like to see all of those things be a couple of clicks away from a Moodle page, and you can drag and drop them into your courses, so that course building becomes easier and easier. And
I have a question about that, but more importantly, there are two people who have questions here right now. Ella, do you want to put them up on stage, or do you want to just flash them on the screen? This is from Chris, who wants to know if you could please expand on this new community site and how it will interact with local installations. Good question, Chris.
So it's still in early stages, this thing. We're still building it. We have limited resources and we're building it slowly. But the way that I'm envisioning it to be is that an administrator registers with the community to connect the community to their own local site. And then it becomes available as, imagine a little tab on the side of a course. So when you're a teacher facing a blank course, there's that community tab just hanging on the side there. Then, that's sort of the basics of how you'd interact with it.
It wouldn't be a separate world. It would actually be that closely connected.
Yeah. Inside that community, you would have a Moodle identity. And that identity, a Moodle account, if the administrator chooses, they could let the site log in. They could let people log into their Moodle site using the Moodle identity, like an OAuth 2 thing, like you would use Google or Facebook, to log into a site.
Sure.
But the identity of Moodle is very critical, because what we have to do in there is build trust. And we have some very, very good plans for something like open badges on a personal level, where the activities that you're doing build up into a trust model, so that if someone says, look, I'm going to build a course, you can really see from the history and recommendations from other people what their ability is to do that. And when you're in communities and taking advice from people, you can see what kind of credentials they have.
Do you think people will have some kind of will they have a profile, almost a social media presence within this?
Exactly. It's a social media platform, but very focused for educators. We want it to be the place, the best place in the world where educators who really care about being educators hang out. This is where you go to hang out with your crew, right?
Oh, this could be a giant global brain. That's a great question. And Vicky, if you wanted to join in, you wanted to follow up on this as well. Ella, there was a second question that you wanted to bring up, please. And this is from Roxanne, the awesome Roxanne, who says, are Moodle rooms owned by Blackboard? And part two, is Moodle considered a next generation LMS? If yes, why? Good questions.
Okay. So there is sometimes confusion with Moodle rooms and Moodle. So let me explain what that is. So we have Moodle, which is the main company, my company. We have Moodle partners, which are companies that do services around Moodle, hosting, consulting, training, those sorts of things. And our main business model right now is 10% of what they make comes back to Moodle, and that's how I can pay developers to do things. One of those companies was Moodle Rooms, and it was started in the US. I helped to start it, actually, with some of the other founders. And it grew from nothing to quite a sizable company, which was really competing against Blackboard Learn in a serious way in the, around 2010, 2011, 12. And in 2012, it was, Blackboard bought that company and so as they kind of reduced the competition a little bit, but what they actually did was become a multi-LMS provider. So now Blackboard has they do Moodle services. In fact, outside of the US, their Moodle is a much more popular platform for them to sell than actually Blackboard Learn.
Yes.
So they provide services to a lot of people, just as our other 87 or so partners also do. And we have a lot of companies that do Moodle services around the world.
87 or so. Wow.
The other part of your question was, is Moodle a next-gen LMS from memory?
Yes.
So I assume you're talking about a particular spec that came out from a group of people defining what they thought a next-gen LMS was. When I went through that, I was surprised actually by how not next-gen it was. That almost all the things in there you could do with Moodle in some way or other. Not necessarily out of the box, but by using plugins or configuring things a certain way. There were a few bits which I cannot remember off the top of my head, but they were things we were doing soon or on our roadmap. The way we tend to develop is by following the trends of what people are asking for. So the last 15 years for me, a lot of it has been an exercise of consensus building and consensus finding amongst people who have very, very different opinions. Because we don't just operate on higher ed, we operate in schools, we operate in workplaces, we operate, Moodle is used for all kinds of quite strange applications sometimes. Like once I heard of an ISP using it to publish a manual. And so everyone has different opinions, and our job is to kind of sort through that and try and find a way.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Ed.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you're here. But hang on, before Ed gets to bounce, Roxanne's question, I want to thank you. That was a terrific question. Both the question about, especially the question about next generation digital learning environment. Martin, just before it goes, is the roadmap, is that still a live thing that Moodle still publishes a roadmap for where it's expecting to go in the next few years?
I'll tell you, our roadmap for the next year is mostly cleaning up what we have. It's usability. We're working on usability. So we're trying to make the interface as slick and as smooth and discoverable as possible. We are converging the mobile interface with the web interface, and we're doing work like that. We're updating interfaces. So, for example, the participants and enrollments pages are being combined right now. The calendar is getting an overhaul, so you can drag and drop things. So not really adding features. We are cleaning up what we have, and we're having a bit of a reflection period of doing that. And a lot of people are behind that because probably one of the major criticisms leveled at Moodle are that out of the box it looks a little old. But there are very easy fixes for all those things, and we're working on them now. So I think even if you look at Moodle in the last year or two, you'll see we've made a lot of big strides forward in that area too.
Well, thank you. I would love to hear more about the reflections.
I could keep talking about the roadmap going forward for like a long time, but maybe we'll get to that later.
Okay. Well, let's let Ed have a turn. Ed, are you where are you today? Are you in Chicago or Ann Arbor?
Yeah, I'm in Chicago today, so on the 8th floor downtown. So
hopefully need some blues.
Yeah, well, the rain has stopped, so we're happy there. I did have one thing that I wanted to bring up that I think is just really cool. I love the idea of the community. I represent, or I work with 14 different campuses, and 11 of them are on Moodle. So a lot of the questions I get are related to that platform, and this idea of sharing resources within the Moodle platform is really intriguing to me. And I guess one question I had: do you think that in some cases it has to do with, you mentioned Moodle and trying to make the interface more slick and make the interface look more modern and do different things? You think perhaps they just don't realize what's under the hood? Because, for example, Moodle is highly customizable, way more so than a Canvas or a Blackboard or anything else on the market that I know of.
For sure.
But I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that, as far as, what's driving towards both making the tools still very rich and deep, but also making it more accessible for the user to be able to find out what's available.
Well, and that's the thing, when I started Moodle, and I did some very deep stuff with some of these modules that no one still today, hardly anybody uses. And over the years, teachers have created amazing modules and plugins that do. I was just in Germany, and there were some presentations about some really advanced stuff with quizzes. So these are student-created questions, really great models for taking those questions and bubbling up the good ones to the top and using those for assessment. And
Nice.
This kind of work gets done on Moodle. I mean, Moodle is used as a research platform a lot too. When I go to a research conference, like 70% of them are, we had a hypothesis and we implemented it in Moodle, and then we proved this hypothesis. So there's a lot of this great stuff, but it's not easy to find and it's not easy to learn. And that's because people who come to Moodle, a lot of them who teach with Moodle, they have never taken an online course themselves, or they never grew up with online courses. So they don't really have that understanding of what the experience feels like from a student point of view. And secondly, and that gives a bit of a wall, actually, because they can't get deep into the tools when they're still struggling with even the notion of what it is to be collaborative online, for example. That something so basic, to really have a collaborative class and be a facilitator rather than dumping. So another one of our initiatives attacks this directly. So we have a new thing now. The main guy, I would say, who was behind Moodle Rooms was a guy called Tom Murdoch, and a really good friend of mine. He was an English teacher before he started Moodle Rooms. And when it got bought by Blackboard, he left, and he's been doing other things. This year, I brought him back to Moodle. I said, man, you've got to come back here. I really need you here. And he now has a team of 5 people working on a new Moodle training initiative. And this is almost like a college degree in Moodle. And it's not just showing you tools. It's about pedagogy. It's about, from the ground up, how you teach online, how you create experiences for students. And it uses the Moodle tools as examples, of course. And I'm very, very excited about this, because this is going to be available at Moodle Moots. It'll be available online. It'll be available through Moodle partners as paid training. And all of those things build up to certain certifications and so on. But what we're doing here is building like the definitive way to learn how to teach online. And I think having that out there is going to will really help a lot of people use the tools, as well as the interface being easier.
So that's a degree in Moodle?
I'm calling it that because the structure of it is it's broken into modules, and the modules have like points, like credit points. And as you complete them, you gather points. And when you got a certain number of points, you get a certification level 1, and then maybe a level 2, and like it.
Sure.
And this team of 5 have been working on the curriculum. We have a Moodle. Our next Moodle conference is actually in New Orleans. I'm going to be there in a couple of weeks, and we're going to start revealing some of the first stuff from that. And it'll be on Moodle.org as well. And we want to get a bit more involvement, some feedback on it to help build it up and finish it off. But that's really exciting to me, because I think that's 80% of the problem is just how people use software. It's not really the software itself.
Yes. I'm a huge fan of the glossary function, and I find almost nobody uses that. It's such a neat tool. We have a question, and Ed, please stick around. We have a question from Twitter from Mark Corbett Wilson. Quick question. He says, Does Moodle support tagging with controlled vocabularies like Dublin Core?
That is a good question. Yes, it does. You can have official tags, with site-defined tags, and you can restrict people to just using those. The user-created tags is a separate feature, and you can also allow that or disallow that. So yes, you can. And the tags apply to, in recent releases, actually, the tags was expanded to more and more things around Moodle.
Even more.
So that's something that's growing. Yeah.
So tagging is continuing to grow. That's excellent.
You can tag quiz questions, and you can tag courses, and you can tag activities, and so on.
Oh, so you have the whole folksonomy. That's great. Ella says that there's another video question. Why don't you bring them up, please? And this is from Kirsten Namath.
I think I'm one of those people who never sees the good stuff because I'm working with the old stuff all the time. Could you just give a few more examples of what we should look into?
I missed the first few words, Kirsten, and hello. Nice.
Yeah.
Welcome to the big picture.
You said that there's a lot of good stuff in Moodle that people hardly ever use because they don't find it. I think I'm one of those people. So could you just give us a few more examples of what we should
All right.
focus on?
So what level do you teach at, Catherine? How old are the students?
I'm Moodle administrator and do teacher training, prepare teacher training, write courses as well. And we have 600 or 700 teachers who are using Moodle at the moment.
So where are you, Kirsten?
Sweden.
Excellent.
Folk University in Sweden, Gothenburg.
Well, I am. I have a particular affinity for the survey module. Now, a lot of people come to the survey module and they go, "Oh, I can't make my own surveys. This is rubbish," and they move on, right? But those surveys that are in there are analytics, and it was actually the very first Moodle plugin that I ever wrote. It's like the first Moodle module. In fact, I just had surveys in the beginning, right? And I was applying them to face-to-face classes. So the ones that are in there have a lot of research behind them. They are very valid instruments, very usable instruments, and they give you this great view into what the class is doing and how they're feeling. And I used to run these every week. So every week in a course, I'd give them the same survey over and over again, and I'd look at the results. And you've got these graphs, and if you look at them, you drill into the data, you start seeing particular students standing out, like they're outliers. And so it starts generating questions. Why is that student sticking out there? So, look into the data more, look into what they're doing, or talk to them. And you always had very interesting outcomes, I found. So that's just one example of a tool that I think most people overlook because they go, I want to make my own surveys. I don't want to use that standard one. But the standard ones had a lot of power. I don't know, if you're asking me to point out Moodle features, there's so many. There's obviously hundreds and hundreds of third-party plugins as well on Moodle.org. And we've recently updated the database there. And you can now see more easily the ones that are very popular, the ones that have high ratings or have good quality, and you'll always get good ideas out of those. I've seen quizzes used in a lot of interesting ways. And back in the early days when I made the quiz module, I did not use it for assessment. I used it as a learning tool, and I would get the students revising material over and over, or I would give them a quiz which was based on, so the questions were about things that had happened in the course, not necessarily the content. It was like things that happened in the discussions. So I'd get them to revise the actions, the things that had happened in the course. So, for example, in week 2, Bryan said something that started a long discussion. What was it? Something like that. So that's well done, Bryan, for that. But and then Bryan gets a little pumped because he's like, yeah, man, I got mentioned in the quiz, and everyone else has forced to go back and read the forums and revise what happened. So you can be really creative. All the tools, you can be quite creative with them if you're a good teacher, to create experiences for the student, and that's what it's about.
But this is so fascinating, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a huge fan of Sweden. I am. At my house we have multiple stuffed animals called Vasa, but also earlier, about a year ago, Martin, we had as a guest Casey Green, who does the campus technology survey, and he made the case that for most colleges and universities, the LMS is an administrative tool, not a pedagogical one. And I find it fascinating that for you, the minute you talk about the technology, you automatically bring it into pedagogy. And I think just that's terrific and all too rare. But let me step.
It's why Moodle exists, because of these two things right in the middle there.
Yes. We have more questions coming in. Please, Ella, there's a raised hand. Let's pull some up in video, or Roz.
Afternoon here.
Hey.
I have a quick fantastic. I love to finally get to chat with you guys. I had a quick question, which is a little bit more philosophical for you, since you were the founder of Moodle, and I had used it way back when you first started it. But I've also used, I think by now, about 4 or 5 different LMSs. So my question is this: way back when automobiles were brand new, there was only one type of gasoline, and you only could use one type of gasoline in the car. But now with so many different companies, it really doesn't matter what brand you put in your car, petrol or gasoline, whatever you call it in different countries, even the vocabulary is different. So my question to you is, do you see, and it might be a rhetorical question, do you see a day when it really doesn't matter what we use, that it would be absolutely interchangeable and fluid, because the interface just kind of, you can switch from one or the other, just like I can choose to use Chrome or I can choose to use Firefox, it's the same thing. And if you say yes, how soon is that day?
Well, okay, there's 3 levels I'm seeing there. So one is, firstly, if you're a good educator, you can just use email and you will get a good result, right, if you're good at it. The second thing is that we're already kind of in that phase, because if you have, if you have one of these things, it has a lot of different stuff going on here, but it's all brought together into one personal learning environment that we all use now. And we flip between all those apps. The integration of them is not great. It's not easy to just drag a picture from one thing and drop it into something else. And Apple, with all their trillions of dollars, somehow are not really solving that yet. I think they're getting there very slowly, but and Android.
But you just brought up a really cool analogy there. You said, with this. We're using multiple apps at one time, and I think the email tool on a mobile phone is probably a good example where you can actually use any kind of email, but having this as the interface that combines all 3. Because with one touch of one, the interface, I can toggle between my Gmail and my university mail and any other, my Yahoo mail. I have actually 5 different email accounts kind of put on one interface. So that's what I mean. Do you think that the next level, of LMS isn't an LMS, but instead the next level is somebody who says, I'm going to create an interface that if I install this interface on a device, I can toggle between Moodle and Desire to Learn and Blackboard and Canvas and all the different LMSs, so that the user's experience becomes this fluid thing, and I can go back and forth. Do you see that happening soon?
Yes and no. So yes, in the way that there is a standard that's been developed called LTI. Are you familiar with Learning Tools in Interoperability? So this is about taking a tool from one platform and using it within another. And the way it simply works is the initiating tool sends users information over to the other one, and you do some stuff, and if there's any assessment, it sends grades back, and then the grades go into a grade book. Why I said yes and no is that no, because you need something to collect those grades. And you might say, well, a grade book is just another LTI tool, and some people are saying that, but I disagree. If you look at why education institutions exist, they are tying together a whole lot of experiences into a really nice package. And what you're asking is, can a student go and take one course over in Canada, another one in the US, another one in Australia, another one in South Africa, and then I've just named mostly English-speaking countries, sadly. But the answer is it's not very practical, and it's not very good user interface, and it's not the work you need to do to try and synchronize payments and timetables and all that. It's just insane. So there's a very good reason why schools and universities and workplace learning institutions exist. They're bringing together a lot of stuff into an administration, a management package. And that's why we have learning management systems, because they are basically mirroring that structure online. And it's way more convenient to have one platform to do that with. Now, I agree they overlap, and I don't really personally. I don't mind what.
I'm throwing this as a philosophical question, and I know we've got all kinds of audiences out there. So maybe I'm throwing it out for people who are visionaries, people who can see beyond the existing. And I gave the example of gasoline. Maybe I give another example. Think about our credit card system. We now have a very fluid thing where once upon a time you subscribe to one banking system and that's it. But now you can do this thing called balance transfers and all of that. So visualize with me, just kind of entertain me for a second. What if, let's say a university says, all right, I'm going to have a grade management system, and that just handles the grades. But for the course delivery, instructors can choose whichever LMS fits their course best. I'm an instructional designer, and I work with different courses where I have some courses here that are actually run by other universities, consortiums, where our students can take credits in another university and vice versa. And it gets really dicey because I'm actually handling like 3 or 4 LMSs in a day that don't talk to each other. I mean, I'm guessing somebody out there could think up of a way where they could create this common platform that manages
LTI.
the grades, but the actual course delivery is run in any LMS.
No, this is what LTI is, and all those LMSs do support LTI. In Moodle, you can publish a whole course as an LTI module to be in some other system, or one activity if you like. And likewise, Moodle can consume LTI from other systems. So, but somebody needs to set it up, and someone needs to understand and maintain that as things are changing in a dynamic environment. And someone needs to make sure the student experience is good, and someone needs to make sure the grades are collected accordingly, and that you can have audit trails on those grades, so that if there's a dispute of something, you can assure. Someone needs to cope with an LTI far away going down because of a network problem or a computer problem. Someone needs to be able to work with offline. So our mobile app works offline, and because it's a Moodle app connecting to a Moodle site, there's a lot of technology to make this stuff work. A lot of hard yakka. That's an Australian word, I think. Work to make simple things happen. Like I always say, the simple things are the most complex. So to synchronize the app with the server, there's a lot of stuff to happen. And the problem with something like LTI or other resources is that you can't take them offline. Like it kind of assumes the internet is always there.
Yeah.
And
that's
if you look into it, the internet is not that good everywhere. 60% of the world have never even made a phone call in their life, let alone use the internet. So, we're still struggling with a lot of...
if I hear you right, you're saying the technology is already available, but what's missing is the human willpower to find a business model that makes it work.
Yes.
Yeah, probably. And also, I don't think it's something everyone's crying out for yet. Like, we're still trying to solve basic problems before solving that. The web itself is a terrific example of that distributed development. You know, every website is a different language and written by different people, but we can access it through one browser. So that already exists. But for interactive flow of information, dynamic stuff, a little bit dicey still. So I think that's a kind of a world problem we might need to all think about.
So we'll keep having LTI and we'll keep having LMSs. Roz, this is a great question. Thank you. Where are you coming from? Well, we'll find out in chat. Got a quick question from Mexico City, from Monica Sanchez, who wants to know about learning analytics in Moodle in terms of personalized learning. So will learning analytics in Moodle help personalized learning? And if you just want to riff on that for a minute.
Yeah. Two parts. There already are several solutions for, let's say, projects for learning analytics that are out there, and some of them are commercial, some of them are not. We at Moodle headquarters, we've made a new initiative called Inspire, like inspiration, and that's our analytics platform that is built into Core. There's a plugin for 3.3, and 3.4 coming in November has it built in. It uses some machine learning. It uses a variety of plugin architectures. What it lets people do is create their own analytics engines, and the purpose of them is quite broad, but how I would like to see them used is to give you personalized messaging. So to inspire you. As a teacher, if you got a message on your phone that said, hey, now would be a perfect time to jump into this discussion because it's really hot right now, right? Or this student looks like they're struggling a bit, and according to past patterns, they might fail this unit. So give them a call. Here's their phone number, right? Get on the phone. These kind of interventions is how I like to see analytics, but other people have different views. The subject of personalization is a weird one because people have different ideas about that. For me, personalization is something driven by the student. So the student, like, you have personalized your experience today. You've come into this space where we are, you know, you're listening, maybe you're talking to each other here, maybe you're doing other things in the background. I'm sure you are. And we do that all the time, and that's what life is like. So for me, the learning experience is something similar. What I kind of object to is the view of personalization as a spoon feeding of, you know this, so now we're going to give you this, and now we're going to give you this, and now we're going to give you that. It seems to be trying to replace the job of a teacher and the learner at the same time, and it also doesn't replicate anything in the real world. The real world doesn't work like that. So, you know, you're learning something in a completely unrealistic way. So anyway, I know a lot of people are interested in that. And I think I saw some research recently that it's worked in some limited cases with very focused and long-term application. But I think in general, it's not, you don't need it.
The research has a lot to go. I'm pounding away at Twitter because we're getting a lot of questions and comments.
Okay.
And
cool.
One came in, and you're probably anticipating this one. Recent blog post from Feldstein about Wither Moodle. And the question is Moodle's growth curve slowing down? Is Moodle hitting a kind of plateau? So how do you respond to that? What do you think?
Not from what I'm seeing, and I see a lot more of the world possibly. Outside of the US, a lot of this stuff is about the US, and in the US there are a lot of LMS vendors and a lot of people a lot of venture capitalists putting hundreds of millions of dollars into building platforms, and there's a lot of competition. But outside of the US, less so. And some of the beauty of having a more common platform is that, when somebody writes a plugin or comes up with an idea, it can spread around the world really quickly. So as a research platform, it's very popular. And if I've been going to some research conferences recently, and like I said, everybody just uses Moodle. Even the IMS, at IMS, they very often will implement it in Moodle just to, as a proof of concept of a new standard or something. So the other thing is we aren't driven by numbers. Like we're not one of those venture capitalist driven for-profit entities that is driven by a very particular exponential curve with our investors expecting us to meet the targets in 2 years. We don't have that pressure, and we're not driven by numbers. We're driven by the needs of our users. I would frankly be just as happy if we had 100 universities only using Moodle, because there'd be still so much to talk about. So the fact is, though, we have many, many more than that. Millions and millions and millions of students using Moodle everywhere.
That's a good answer. Thank you. I appreciate the passion behind that. Ella, there's another video question. Could you bring this person up, please? And this may be the second to last question because we're running low on time.
I'm on 8% battery as well, so.
8? Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll grab a cable.
Carly, good to see you. You're muted.
Hey, Carly.
You need to unmute your mic. Your mic is muted. You need to unmute.
Microphone.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
Perfect.
Not all the icons are buttons. Good to see everybody again. This is kind of related to what Roz brought up earlier about the interoperability between different tools. Recently, I've been doing a lot of work at our small institution with integrating discipline-specific tools via LTI or, our faculty members' very favorite discussion tool or whatever. And I'm trying to integrate these tools more fully into the rest of the course content to provide a better, more streamlined and easily navigable learning experience for the students. And I'm getting frustrated with the integration light is what it feels like to me. And so what my question is what can you do at Moodle, and what can we do from the institutional side to try to push this LTI protocol to be more of a complete integration?
I'm not sure LTI is always the answer, because some of the needs of these integrations is very specific. And in fact, a lot of the world won't even touch LTI because it's an American standard produced by a closed group, like it's a club, IMS. I'm a member of IMS. It's a great organization, but I'm just saying, not everyone believes in it. There are other more open standards too. But the point is, the main way we do integrations, like good integrations, is by writing a Moodle plugin. And the Moodle plugin can do anything. As long as the other tool has a good API, you can work with that or work with their developers, then a small Moodle plugin can actually achieve an awful lot. And it can transfer all kinds of data backwards and forwards to get what you need. There's another thing that I'm starting. I should probably, okay, I'll mention it. But I'm planning a conference. I'm planning a conference in the EU. I was organising it last few weeks, so it's quite fresh. To get some of the open projects, the software projects, into one place and to just talk about integration. Because I think there needs to be a lot more of them between the projects, again, talking to each other rather than letting universities and other people talk. But cool. I don't know, if they may exist. If you look on Moodle.org, plugins, there are, I don't know, last count, how many was it? 1,300 plugins. So if people make them and they've shared them, they may be there. But if not, a developer can do it. Any developer. So a student maybe, it's just a bit of PHP. It's not too hard.
Well, you make it look so easy.
We've lost you, Carly.
Carly, thank you for your question. We are right past the end of our hour. Yeah. Okay. But Martin, first, I hate to pause, but we are past the end of the hour, and it is a ridiculously early time in the morning for you, and your battery is probably about to cough up and die. I really
my laptop, but not mine. I'm good.
That's true. That's true. You are definitely a force of nature. Thank you so much. This has been such a rare opportunity to glimpse into your thinking and to where half of education technology is going. On Twitter, there's a whole stream of likes and people saying this is great. We want more. Donna Farron just said thank you. I want to come back to after you in a few months and follow up with more questions whenever we can fit it in.
Sure, happy to come again. So pleasure to come on this time, Bryan. Thanks very much for the invitation, and thanks for seeing everybody here. Follow Moodle.org. I'm Moodler on Twitter. Find me there.
Yes.
And really, there's going to be some interesting things coming up in the next few months. So yeah, keep an eye on us.
You're the one who would know it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Friends, let me just quickly mention where we're coming next week and what we're up to. And Martin, stick around as long as you can. We have to let you know that next week we have a wild session. We're going to be at the Campus Technology Conference in Chicago, where Ed Finn is and some other forum friends. So we're going to be doing a live session next Thursday morning. So we're going to be having as many people as we can. We'll be giving you a sense of what ideas and topics have come up from Open to the LMS, and we'll be looking forward to your questions and comments. So it's one of those fun live forum sessions right from the floor of the conference. And also next week, we're going to start reading our next book in our book club, which is a fantastic book. If you haven't read it, this is Rainbow's End by Verna Vinca. Rainbow's End is a near-future science fiction novel about the future of education. It is the greatest book in the past generation about this subject. It is a fascinating point of view, really interesting characters, some really arch satire about Google that gets more true every day. It's a lot of fun, too. So please join us and read along. I think you'll find it a fascinating book. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about the Future Trends Report, go to fete.us. If you want to learn more about this Shindig technology, go to shindig.com. And otherwise, we'll see you next week. Thank you for coming and take care. Bye-bye.